Guys, I finished Barbarian's Taming. Let's talk about it.
Pictures and patterns put into words that stream across the page, capturing life as soft-spoken.
Okay, so I've been reading the Ice Planet Barbarians books. We are going to do spoilers because I got to talk about some of the stuff that happened. This book, it was a wild ride. It was a wild ride, y'all. So, here is kind of what this is. In the last book, we had the alien shuttle that Kira knocked down in book 3. Still had some humans on it. And so the aliens have gone and they've gotten Lila and Maddie. Lila is deaf, and the last book was her. And Lila was kidnapped shortly out of the hangar by, I think his name's Hassan. All these guys have very similar names, and sometimes it gets confusing. But anyway, she's kidnapped by this one guy because he really wants a mate so very, very badly. And so he takes her to this cave, and she eventually escapes and falls in love with her dude. And Maddie, the sister, has been sent back to the aliens. She is upset. They did not protect her sister. What is going on? And then her sister comes back, basically married to a dude, and she's happy for her sister, but she's also like, what do I do now? And the guy who kidnapped her, Hassan, he has been exiled. He is allowed to go and get food for the group and bring it back, but he's not allowed to hang out. He's not allowed to live with them because he broke the rules. He stole the girl. So Maddie is feeling all types of lonely, and she ultimately starts wanting to like learn to hunt for reasons. She feels like, at some point she may need to leave the aliens because she just feels like nobody likes her. She's not resonating. She's kind of useless, and she is a plus size girl, and she's very worried about like being able to contribute. If she doesn't want people to be like, fat girl taking in too many calories, and you're not mated, you're not doing any of this, we're gonna kick you out first because we gotta save the food for the people who are making babies. And I will say, I liked Maddie and her plus sizeness. I know some people did not. I'd read a lot of reviews that said, oh, they got tired of it, especially when she was like, man, I just want a cheeseburger. I just want some McDonald's. But I feel like if I was on Not Hoth and not resonating, I would probably be that girl with like, I just need a pizza. Like, do you not have pizza? Pizza, chocolate, something. And I will say too, one of the things we don't see as much as I would like is the girls remembering their past lives on Earth and the things that they're missing and the things, we don't really know much about any of the girls' lives on Earth up to the point that I've read. We know little tiny details like Tiffany had a cow and like Liz liked to hunt. But, I would have liked more details. And I really liked Maddie's personality. Like, she's kind of angry and standoffish, but she's also struggling. And while she can kind of be a bitch sometimes, I did like her. And very much a lot of her struggles I could relate to, especially as a plus size woman. And definitely the whole, we're on this planet and I would kill for McDonald's. Like, that seems very fair to me. So anyway, and her concern about all of this and whether she wants to keep living with these people, especially she's not resonating, things are rough. She goes to Hassan and she's like, hey, I want you to teach me how to hunt. And he's like, but, and she's like, no buts, teach me how to hunt. So they are spending all of this time together. And that really worked for me. And then the thing happens. There is this mad catastrophe and the caves fall apart. And Hassan has to run in and try to save people. And one of the people, you have one person who died in the cave-in, and you have several others who are wounded, included one who is in the next book as like the main character who's going to have amnesia and forget about his resonance mate. I'm excited for that story. But anyway, so Hassan runs in, and during the whole cave falling in and stuff, I was just crying. I was like bawling like a baby when all of the cave stuff's happening. Because then Hassan and Maddie are going to try to find him a place to stay. And also, like, I had just read the first in the Ice Planet home book. So, like, not only am I sad about my aliens' devastation in the caves, but also I'm like, oh crap, Rajal and all their families are dying. And because, you know, if you've read Ice Home and things like that, you know that this event that happens in this book, the explosion of the volcano, that happens over on the island, and you have mass death, mass casualties from that over there. And then here, you know, our caves, everything is just broken, and the Devisti's leg, our pet Devisti's leg is hurt, and you've got the guy knocked out, and you've got everybody bruised and broken and sore. And so Maddie and Hassan are going on an adventure to try to find like a place for them to live and to like bring the people, and they're kind of getting to be heroes in the story. And one thing I liked is that it wasn't until the very end that they resonated. And while I really like the fated mates aspect of some of the stories, especially when like they resonate with somebody they didn't want to resonate with, like Josie and Hayden is probably one of my favorite dynamics of the couples, because, you know, Josie wants to resonate so bad, but not to Hayden. And so, like, I do love that, but I really like this too, because Maddie and Hassan are hanging out, and they're basically boyfriend and girlfriend, and there's no resonance until the very freaking end. And I thought that was really beautiful because they really chose each other. This was a book that I was kind of hesitant about because, you know, oh, this is a guy who kidnapped her sister. He, you know, was the bad guy in the last book. And I had assumed they were going to resonate, and it was going to be like a hate to love, like, you took my sister. Now, I will say there's still a little jealousy with Maddie. Like, Maddie still has that, you know, oh gosh, you took my sister. Do you really like me? Do you really like my sister? And that got old really fast. But also, like, I think by the end she understood that he just wanted a girl. He wanted a wife. He was lonely and he was sad. He didn't have anybody. And, you know, he just wanted a wife. And so, yeah, he took Lila. It wasn't like he loved her. It wasn't like he specifically thought she was better than Maddie. He just had to pick one, and he took her. And, like, he spends a lot of the book going, how was I ever attracted to Lila? Why did I ever like Lila? Maddie is clearly the superior sister. So, like, but then also there's also Maddie being like, hey, Lila, I'm friends with your kidnapper, and I kind of like him a lot. And Lila's like, why? He kidnapped me. So I did really like the dynamics. I liked the complexity of their relationship, and I really liked too that they were able to come together prior to resonance. That resonance in this one was like at the very end. Wasn't, I don't want to say it wasn't important, but like they chose each other and they worked out all of the, you stole my sister, do you like my sister still, why did you choose my sister over me, all of that prior to the resonance. Because I think if they'd have resonated and then had to work all of that out, I wouldn't have appreciated it. I thought this was really good as far as all of the emotional stuff going on, the emotional stuff that they're processing, you know, him processing his being in exile and how lonely and how difficult that was. And, you know, that he took Lila because he was so lonely and so desperate. But, like, he realizes that wasn't the right thing to do. But he also, you know, I love how desperate, this sounds horrible, but I like that discussion. The discussion of the desperation of, you know, these guys, there's only so many women, and they're afraid that they're never going to have that love. They're never going to get married. They're never going to have babies because there's only so many women. And there's a lot of dudes. And even though, you know, the next generation is starting to have babies, and they live longer. So like potentially when some of these girls grow up, or like you've got Farley who's a teenager, they have potential future wives, but no, which is probably kind of gross in and of itself to think about actually. But in a reality, these people, they're struggling because they want these families. Family is so big, it's so important on Not Hoth, and yet the numbers are just not in their favor. And Hassan was so desperate for a wife and babies that he was trying to force resonance with Lila. And yes, he shouldn't have. And yes, that's terrible. And I think it was nice too that in the end he didn't have to force anything. Like him and Maddie just resonated after they'd been dating. Like they were pleasure mates or whatever for a while before they ever resonated. And I think that really worked well for me. But I was also just devastated in this book by the caves, the destruction of the caves. And like I kind of knew it happened because, like I said, I'd read later books. I jumped around and read the first Ice Home book while I was waiting for this one, and I read the first Ice Planet Clones book. And so I knew stuff happened. And like knowing that, I think maybe made all the cave stuff even worse because I'm like, oh, my island people are dying. Everybody's dads and moms and everybody I heard about in later books is dead now. So I did have maybe a stronger emotional reaction than most people did, but I cried. I cried with all the stuff happening. I was so devastated. I was so worried about what was happening to all of my aliens. And I can't wait to continue reading. So it's like a 12-week wait for Stacy's book, which is the next book. And it's the husband who has amnesia and coming back to her. So I am so excited. But it was so much and so much devastation. And I was just like, oh no, my friends. So I just had to tell you a little bit about my experience with that book. This is not a new favorite. I definitely still think, and I think after I'm done completely reading everything, I might want to go back and reread it. Kira and Tiffany's books are still at my top spots. And then Hayden and Josie is probably my favorite couple. Or he's definitely my favorite man. And I think they're one of my favorite couples, but not necessarily favorite books. Like, I really like Kira and I really like Tiffany, and I like all the discussion in those books, which kind of elevate them for me. But I really like Josie and Hayden's book too. And this book, is solid. It's solid. I enjoyed it. It's still a 5-star. So I still had a really good time with it. It's not a new favorite, but it was a good time. And brought me all the emotion, and I really liked Maddie, and I would love to see more of the girls' background and personality and things. And yeah, still love an Ice Planet. Alright guys, this has been Jane. If you've made it to the end of this video, please leave a book emoji in the comments. I'll talk to you next time. Bye!